Hi everyone, this is Michael Minnebo, aka Amsterdam Comic Geek. This is gonna be a short haul video because I went to the comic book store on Tuesday this week and they still had some free comic book day comics left, so they told me to pick out a couple of them, which I did, like this one, Vampirella #1 by Dynamite. This is a great Alex Ross cover. It's a story by Christopher Priest, who is writing the series. I think he's still writing it at the moment. And Ergun Gündüz is the artist on this comic. I think it's a Turkish name. Just to give you a small impression of the art. I've never read that much Vampirella in my days, but I've always been curious about this character and what she's about, basically. So curious to read this. Spider-Man Venom. As you know, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I needed to have this one because I want to know what's going on with Spider-Man and Venom, basically. I'm still a bit behind on the Nick Spencer run. That's because I'm reading the trades and not the issues as they come out. But I have been enjoying them a lot. I don't know who made it actually. No names. Well, it's on the cover here, right? So there you go. And I see the Fantastic Four are 60 this year. And it's great to see John Romita Jr. on a Marvel comic again. Too bad he teamed up with this lousy writer. That's why I'm not reading Fantastic Four at the moment. R.L. Stine, or Stine, Just Beyond, and then Irene Flores and Joanna La Fuente, if I say it correctly, are doing this series Monstrosity. Never heard of it. I know this name. I never read anything by Stine, but there was this trilogy of horror movies on Netflix based upon this writer's books. The problem with Free Comic Book Day, and the nice thing about it, I guess, is all these comics are little samples, sort of like appetizers, and they're just parts one of a bigger story. So you can sample a couple of artists and writers and characters and see if you like it, if you want to buy the rest of the series. So that's cool about it. But the bad thing about it, I guess, is that, well, that you only have a chapter 1. It's never a full story, or almost never a full story. Anyway, it is about two brothers who bought an old horror studio, and their kids are exploring that studio, and accidents happen while they do that. And there's this strange butler kind of, or caretaker kind of character who has some shenanigans up his sleeve, I suppose. Anyway, are you familiar with the writer's work? What do you think of it? Batman Special Edition. I was curious about Batman Fear State, not the I Am Batman series. I think Bruce Wayne should be Batman and nobody else, basically. Haven't read this one yet, but I think it has to do with the Scarecrow, and that could be interesting. Well, here's the Scarecrow, so yeah, it has to do with the Scarecrow. Made by James Tynion IV. Do people actually number their kids nowadays? Weird. And Jorge Jimenez, if I pronounce that correctly, which I probably won't. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't speak Spanish. Fear State is a big event. Enough said about that. Oh, this looks good though. And they put aside for me this one, the Red Room Free Comic Book Day by Ed Piskor. which is great because I'm collecting Red Room at the moment. And that's basically the reason why I went into the comic book store to get the new Red Room. I think it's number 3. Look at that cover. Great stuff. There's a little bit of a reflection of the lamp above my head. And I also got this one. I saw it in the store a couple of weeks ago when I was there, when I bought the other comics, and I thought I already had this one, so I didn't buy it. And then I checked my collection and it appeared I didn't. These are like the flashback issues. So this is Amazing Spider-Man -1. They also did a couple of them for other series, Spider-Man series. And we learn a bit more about Peter Parker's history in this one, which is pretty cool. So, and I'm happy to have the Red Room Free Comic Book Day, because I think Ed is going to introduce some of the characters in this one. So I'm very curious about that. As I told you before, it's hyper violent, but it's also a lot of fun to read. Anyway, these are my Free Comic Book Day comics. I think it's just a nice way to sample stories and comic book artists and writers to see whether or not you like them. So I think it's a good initiative. And I didn't go on Free Comic Book Day itself because it was quite crowded in the store. And I thought, what the heck, I'll go a couple of days later and see if they still have some. And they did. Anyway, what did you get for Free Comic Book Day? Are you familiar with Vampirella? Do you have any tips of which series, which comics about Vampirella I should read, which are good? And also, are you looking forward to Fear State? And of course, are you familiar with this writer's writing? Because I know he wrote a lot about Halloween, and that's something that piques my interest a lot. So, and I thought those Fear Street movies weren't all bad. I didn't think the cast was that great, except for the cast members we already know from Stranger Things. Those guys were great, but the rest of the movie was okay. But it was more like a recycling of a lot of horror tropes I've seen 1,000 times before. But if you want to watch it, go ahead. I thought the second installment was the best. It was like a Friday the 13th ripoff, with kids in a summer camp getting knocked off, basically. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Cheers.